I don't know if you'll believe everything I'm about to tell you, but this is my story. It's not wrapped in gold or glitter. It's filled with dust, sweat, tears, and a little hope that refused to die. I was born poor, grew up poorer, and for a long time, I didn't even dream, because dreams felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. I was born in a tiny village, the kind that barely exists on maps. My father was a farmer with a small piece of land, and my mother was a homemaker who somehow managed to feed us with almost nothing. We were 5 children, and I was the eldest. I learned the weight of responsibility before I even learned how to write my name. We didn't have toys. We had stones, sticks, and our imagination. Our school was a 10-minute walk away, but I didn't get to go often. If the crops needed attention, I was there. If a goat went missing, I was the one searching for it. Every small crisis became mine to solve. By the time I was 10, I already knew hunger like an old friend. I'd see my mother skip meals just so we could eat. I remember once, she gave me her portion of rice and told me she wasn't hungry. Later that night, I saw her chewing on dry leaves. That image still haunts me. But I kept going. I always did. That's what you do when quitting is not an option. When I was 12, my father got sick. A fever at first. We thought it would pass. It didn't. Weeks passed, and his body grew thinner, his strength weaker. We didn't have money for a doctor. We tried herbs, prayers, and hope. Hope didn't save him. He died in our small hut, and that day, something inside me broke. I became the man of the house overnight. No time to mourn, no time to rest. My siblings looked at me like I had answers, but I had none. I was a child with a broken heart and an empty pocket, but I had to become something I wasn't ready for. I started working in the nearby town, carrying bricks at a construction site. My hands bled often, and my back ached, but the little money I earned put food on our plates. I worked 10, sometimes 12 hours a day. I stopped going to school completely. The world had decided I was no longer a boy, it had turned me into a machine for survival. And yet, every time I saw my siblings smile after eating, I felt a strange kind of peace. One day, as I was carrying bricks on my head, I saw a boy, maybe the same age as me, walk by with a school bag. He had clean clothes, a smile on his face, and books in his hands. I stood there, dusty and drenched in sweat, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something inside me stir. I wanted to be that boy. I wanted to learn, to grow, to be more than what life had made me. That night, I found an old notebook and a half-broken pencil. I lit a candle and tried to remember the alphabets. A few days later, I started visiting an old man in the village who used to be a teacher. He agreed to teach me for free. I would work during the day and study at night. Sleep became a rare luxury, but I didn't care. Something inside me was burning now. Life, however, doesn't give up easily. Just when I thought I was making progress, our house caught fire. A storm had passed through, and one small spark turned everything we had into ashes. We had nothing left. I remember sitting outside the burned hut, holding my little brother close, while my mother sat like a statue. I wanted to cry, scream, break things, but instead, I got up the next morning and went back to work. That's the thing about pain. It either destroys you or builds you. It was around this time that my mother fell sick. She had hidden it from us for months, pretending she was okay, but she wasn't. Her body was failing, slowly and painfully. I begged the clinic in town to help us. One nurse agreed to give her medicine, but she said it might be too late. And it was. My mother died 3 weeks later. I didn't cry at the funeral. I didn't cry at all. I just stood there, holding my youngest sister's hand, feeling like my world had ended twice. But I didn't stop. Years passed. I continued working. I studied whenever I could. By the time I was 20, I could read and write fluently. I taught my siblings too. One of them even topped her class. I felt proud in a way I can't describe. Then something happened. A contractor I worked for noticed me helping the other workers with basic math. He asked where I learned it. I told him. He didn't say much at the time, but a week later, he called me and offered me a job as his assistant. It paid more, and for the first time, I wasn't carrying bricks, I was using my brain. That one job changed everything. I started saving. I sent my siblings to school. I took extra jobs at night, typing documents, doing accounts for local shops. I never said no to work, and slowly, life began to shift. Not fast, but enough to give me hope. At 25, I moved to the city. A friend from my village helped me find a small room and introduced me to a company looking for an office assistant. I applied. I didn't have any formal education, but I was honest in my interview. I told them I was a fast learner, a hard worker, and that I had come too far to quit. They hired me. My salary was small, but the opportunities were big. I learned computers, communication, management, anything I could get my hands on. Within 3 years, I was promoted twice. I wasn't rich, not yet, but I was stable. For a boy who once chewed on stale bread to survive, that felt like a dream. But my dreams had only just begun. I started a small side business, just selling local products online. It didn't earn much in the beginning, but I kept at it. I learned about marketing, branding, customer service. I made mistakes, failed often, but never gave up. Now, 10 years later, that business is my full-time job. I employ 15 people, some of whom are from my own village. I've built a small school there too, where children can study for free. I named it after my mother. Sometimes, I sit alone and think about everything I've been through. The days of hunger, the nights of silent crying, the weight of death and loss. I don't know how I made it. Maybe it was stubbornness. Maybe it was love. Maybe it was the belief that life had to offer more than just pain. I'm still not the richest man, but I am rich in the ways that matter. I've fed hungry mouths, I've helped build dreams, and I've turned my scars into strength. If you're still listening to my story, I want you to remember one thing. No matter how dark it gets, no matter how broken you feel, if you keep walking, you'll find light. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. I am proof of that.